Question number 10, Honourable Phil Goff.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Minister of Defence. Does he agree with reported statements that the New Zealand Defence Force personnel in Crib 19 were sent to Afghanistan without full pre-deployment training, given that their commanding officer believed that they were not adequately prepared but felt that he had no choice but to deploy them anyway?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Honourable Jerry
Speaker,
Brownlee.
I will be answering this question on behalf of the Minister of Defence, but I would point out that there are aspects of this question which could refer to a suppressed coroner's report, which we cannot refer to in this House. In recent days, Mr Goff has either deliberately released some of that material or has inadvertently done so, but I don't think we should exacerbate the act by speaking of it further in this House. What I will do is attempt to answer his question from general information that I've been able to pick up today from Defence in order to answer this question. So,
of course, the responsibility for the content of the question is the responsibility of the Minister, and he can certainly say it's not in the public interest due to a suppression order, if he so chooses.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Defence, the commanding officer made no such comments. Mr Goff is relying on the comments of a warrant officer who was one of more than 16 instructors who prepared Crib 19 at the Collective Training Centre. The commanding officer of Crib 19 was confident that they were ready for deployment into the theatre, where further location-specific training took place.
Supplementary question.
Mr Speaker.
Order. Supplementary question. Honourable
Mr Speaker, was it correct that pre-deployment training was reduced from 5 weeks to 3 weeks because of Rugby World Cup commitments, which meant that training outcomes were not achieved, and that it was reported to the New Zealand Defence Force that this introduced, quote, considerable risk to that deployment?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Defence, the commanding officer was satisfied that they were suitably trained to be deployed into the theatre. Further training was given to Crib 19 in theatre. The situation is that the commanding officer of the outgoing unit has to be satisfied that the incoming unit is operationally capable, just as the commander of the incoming unit has to be similarly in a position to assert capability. In addition, the CT trainers who went to Afghanistan to complete that training with the in-location specific training required for troops in Afghanistan was satisfied that they were competent. The line that Mr Goff is taking is completely unreasonable and terribly disrespectful to those troops.
Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Phil Goff.
You will recall, Mr Speaker, Mr Speaker, I'm raising a point of order, and the Minister I'm questioning is speaking during it.
Order.
And he's still doing it, Mr Speaker.
Order. Silence will be maintained while
Mr Speaker,
gives this point of
as you'll recall, my question was very specific. By reducing pre-deployment from 5 weeks to 3 weeks, and therefore not achieving the training outcomes, did the Defence Force have reported to it that this introduced considerable risk? Very specific. None of those things were answered.
Is the Minister in a position to answer the specificity of the question? Is not? Further supplementary.
Mr Speaker, of course not. Mr Speaker, did the extension of Crib 19 from the usual 6 months to 8 months, without any provision being made for leave because of that extension, again caused by the Rugby World Cup, leave personnel exhausted at the end of that deployment, therefore also introducing further risk?
Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Defence, Crib 19 knew before they left New Zealand that their deployment would be extended. Further, leave provisions were made for Crib 19, and on the last point, I don't have enough information to comment.
Supplementary question, Honourable Phil Goff.
Why was Romero combat outpost in Bamiyan, denied the extra medical training resource, which was described as quote-unquote essential, and given only one set of defibrillating pads described as insufficient if more than one wounded person needed resuscitation.
Honourable Jerry
Mr.
Bromley.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Defence, I'm not in a position to answer that question.
Order. 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 Question number 11, Simon O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question's to the Minister of Education and ask what recent